There were times in my life where I genuinely believed that the more I proved my loyalty, my patience, and my effort, the more secure my place would become in someone's life. Whether it was in relationships, friendships, or even work, I spent so many years bending, adjusting, and overextending, thinking if I just gave enough, I'd finally be respected, valued, or even loved the way that I wanted to be. And the truth, no matter how much I gave, it never actually fixed that invisible weight inside, because self-respect isn't earned by effort for others. It's earned by how you treat yourself, by the standards you refuse to compromise on, by the quiet lines you draw and refuse to cross, even when it's uncomfortable. And sometimes those lines are invisible to everyone else. It's in the moments you decide not to chase a conversation that isn't meeting you halfway, and when you decide to stop explaining yourself. Those are small choices that might seem insignificant, but internally they change everything. The thing about self-respect is, it can feel scary at first. Maybe it's saying no when you usually would have said yes. Maybe it's stopping yourself from excusing behaviour that you used to tolerate. Or maybe it's finally realising you don't need to over-explain your choices to anyone. And yes, it comes with guilt. And sometimes that guilt is confusing, because logically you know you're not doing anything wrong. You're simply protecting your time, your energy and peace. But emotionally it can still feel unfamiliar, almost like you've stepped outside a role that people were used to seeing you play. The feeling that you're being selfish or harsh, the old voice that wants you to shrink back so everyone else stays comfortable. But here's what I've learned. Respecting yourself doesn't mean being unkind or abandoning others. It just means you're finally acknowledging that your time, energy and heart have value, that your feelings matter. Your peace, your priorities and happiness, they all matter. Because when you make yourself a priority, you start to notice something else too. You start seeing people more clearly, not in a bitter way, in a truthful way. You begin recognizing who respects your boundaries naturally and who only felt comfortable when you had none. And that distinction can be confronting, because some people only felt comfortable when you were the one adjusting and making things easier for everyone else. The moment you stop doing that, the dynamic starts to shift. Not because you suddenly became difficult or unreasonable, but because the version of you that they relied on, the one who overextended, is no longer there in the same way. And that's often when the clarity begins to appear. With a little distance, you start seeing certain behaviours differently. Things that once felt confusing begin to make sense. Patterns you ignored before become impossible to ignore. And slowly, sometimes painfully, you begin to see the difference between people who genuinely value you and people who only value the role you played in their lives. You start to see who actually respects you and who doesn't. The people who don't respect your boundaries, your time and your heart, they weren't ever seeing you. They were only using you for what they could get out of you. That realization can sting, not because you expected perfection from people, but because you believed the connection meant something deeper. And recognizing that difference takes honesty. It means accepting that sometimes people weren't valuing you. They were valuing what you consistently gave them. And that's okay, because that clarity is power. Clarity doesn't always arrive in the moment. Sometimes it comes later, in the quiet space after everything settles. It's when you step back from the emotions, the confusion and the constant effort of trying to make sense of someone's behaviour. Then suddenly things begin to make more sense. You start recognising patterns you once overlooked. You remember moments that didn't sit right at the time. The dismissiveness, the lack of accountability, the subtle ways your feelings were minimised or brushed aside. Things you might have noticed before but didn't fully allow yourself to see. Not because you were naive, but because when you care about someone, you often want to believe the best in them. And that's the difficult part about clarity. Sometimes it doesn't just reveal the truth about the situation, it reveals the truth about the person you trusted. And while that realization can be painful, it's also freeing. Because once you see something clearly, you stop trying to convince yourself that it's something else. Clarity removes the confusion. You stop questioning your instincts. You stop wondering if you're being too sensitive or expecting too much. Instead, you start trusting what your experience has been quietly showing you all along. You start to realize something even bigger. You're the boss of your own life. You don't need to bend, shrink, or overextend to meet anyone else's expectations. You don't need to justify your worth to anyone. Your value doesn't increase because you sacrifice more of yourself. It was never meant to depend on how much you tolerate, how much you explain, or how much you give away just to keep the peace. Your worth exists whether someone recognizes it or not. For me, that realization was understanding that my worth was never meant to be negotiated. Not in the way people speak to you, the way they treat your time, and not in the way they expect access to your energy or your heart. Some things in life are open for discussion, but your value as a person was never supposed to be one of them. Not in relationships, not in work, not in the way you allow people to treat your time or heart. And once you see that clearly, it becomes very hard to go back to the old patterns, because being kind isn't a free pass for someone to dictate how you live your life. And here's the beautiful part. The power of self-respect changes you. You simply begin to carry yourself differently. Your decisions and your boundaries become clearer. And the strange thing is, people start responding to that quiet certainty. It shifts something inside you that can't be undone. You stop compromising for less than you deserve. You stop tolerating what feels wrong. You stop shrinking and you start living with the quiet strength grounded in the truth of your own value. When you start holding yourself with this kind of respect, it changes everything. A quiet ease in your mind and a relief that you don't have to overwork your love or effort to be seen. And slowly you realize you can care deeply and fully without burning yourself out. You can give, you can love, and you can still be entirely you. So if you're sitting there wondering if you're asking too much, if you're being selfish, or if putting yourself first feels uncomfortable, know this. Learning to value yourself after years of putting others first isn't easy. It takes patience and honesty with yourself. And sometimes it takes walking away from situations that once felt familiar. But every step in that direction brings you closer to a life that actually respects who you are. You're not doing anything wrong and you're not selfish. That's what self-respect feels like. A weight lifts, your chest softens, and for the first time in a long time, you can see yourself clearly. And never forget, you matter. Your presence, your choices, and your life, they all matter. Thank you for staying and listening. If this conversation resonated with you, you might also want to watch the next video, Why Growth Feels Lonely. If you'd like to support this space, you can like, comment, and subscribe. It genuinely helps this reach other people who might be sitting with the same questions. If you enjoy my content and would like to support the channel, you can leave a little tip via the PayPal link in the description. And if you want to be here for the next conversation, you can turn on notifications. Your support doesn't just help the channel grow, it reminds me that I'm not the only one thinking about these things quietly, and that matters more than you know. Sending you all so much love. Until next time, keep becoming.